Let's do a couple examples. First one I'm going to do is sine theta equals a half. Well, I know that I can use my calculator. I can say theta equals sine -1 of 1 over 2. I get theta equals 30 degrees. But I'm saying there's more than one possible answer, okay? And be cautious because it works fine for sine on the first little bit, but we're going to look at some negative numbers in here as well, and it's just going to get a little bit trickier, but the graphing is going to help us a lot. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to graph y equals sine x. I'm going to see when x is equal to 30 degrees, sine should be a half. We'll find out that right now. So I'm going to bring this over and do a graph. And before I do the graph, I'm going to change some settings in here. I'm going to say my x is going to go from, I'm going to show 2 cycles of the sine graph. Negative 360, and I'm going to go up to 360. I'm going to step 30, just meaning 30 at a time. My y-axis is going to go from negative 1.5 to 1.5, and really important, I'm going to change this to degrees. There's another way of doing measurement, is called radians, but we want to use degrees, okay? All right. So at the side here, I can actually do some calculations if I wanted to. I can go up here and say, well, function sine -1 of 1/2, and I get 30 degrees. So I know that that was the way to do the calculation. So I'm going to graph now y equals sine x. Okay, and I can see it goes up and down and keeps repeating, and I can see that here's my half. I can see that that happens right around here. So I can click on it if I want to, and it's pretty close to in there. There's 30 if I move up and down. But if I want to go ahead and do another thing, I can graph y equals a half. So if I say y equals a half, then I get another line across, and then I can find those intersections a little bit easier. So I can double click here and I can say, okay, that happens at 30 degrees, but it happens again at 150 degrees. And I can also verify on the side here, if I said sine of 30, I get a half, or if I said a sine of 150, I also get a half. In fact, there's other answers back here. What's this one? This is angle of -210, so sine of -210 is also a half. So there's lots of answers, and another one back here, and then if we kept going along, they keep happening. So that's sine theta equals a half. I've got 2 answers, 30 degrees, and I've got 150 degrees. Okay, so what was my second question? So now I know that there's 2 answers, theta equals 30 degrees, or theta equals 150 degrees. Okay, and so there's 2 possible answers just in those first little ones. Second one, cos theta equals -3 over 2. So theta equals cos -1 of -√3 over 2. Theta is equal to, I can use my calculator over here. I'm going to use the same thing. So cos, not sine, so cos, let's use the function here. Functions cos -1 of negative sqrt, and then it knows its square root, 3 divided by 2, and I get 150 degrees. So I know one of the answers is 150 degrees. What's the other answer? So let's go ahead and graph it this time then. So this time I'm going to graph, instead of sine x, I'm going to graph y equals cos x. So I'm just going to get rid of everything on here to clear it up a little bit. So this time I'm going to say y equals cos x. Okay. And I want to find the intersection when y equals -√3 divided by 2. Okay. So I'm going to graph y equals -0.660, and then I can find out the graph. Oops, get rid of this guy. I can see it intersects here at 150 degrees, 149, that's 150, close enough, and again at 210 degrees. So I know it has 2 possible answers. So if I'm looking at that, it equals 150 degrees, or it equals 210 degrees. Okay. Notice these aren't complementary ones. They're not adding to 180. They're actually being symmetric about this vertex. They're being the same amount to the left of this guy, which is down at 180 degrees. It's the same amount to the left of the 180, the same amount to the right of 180. Okay. So if I was looking in this question, I said, where does it one answer to satisfy both equations? Then I would have to say, well, then the only answer that satisfies both equations, you can do them all in the same graph if you want, is 150 degrees.